right.
RJ in Colorado.
Hello?
How you doing?
Hello.
Says that
I'm
you're
doing good.
wondering.
Thanks for asking.
It says you're wondering why we only have 8 billion people if humans have only been around for 400,000 years.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can help you much with this. Maybe Richard has a better answer. I mean, I have like. Anyway.
I think the basic, very very basic thing is that we've until very very recently we've had a history full of dying very very young.
Yep, high infant mortality.
We've had a history of wars. We've had almost as, in fact, I said this very often, that as in the Neolithic period, when humans first started developing organized religion, was the exact same time that we started developing warfare, which to me just seems a little bit too much of a coincidence. But we've had warfare, we've had pandemics, and not just this recent one. We've had lots of pandemics in the past. We've had the Spanish flu in I think it was around 1920, wasn't it? And then we had the Black Death, which wiped out 3/4 of the world's population. People have died, and until recently, infant mortality rates were very, very high. And it's only in the past kind of few decades, really, where medical intervention and medical care has got better, that those things have decreased. I wouldn't say they've stopped altogether, as the recent pandemic showed, but they've certainly decreased and allowed the population to kind of spring up from what it has been.
Yep, limited resources as well too. I mean, you got to think that throughout all human history, it's not that we've had you just kind of take for granted you just can go turn your faucet and get some water, right? And so, yeah, high infant mortality rates, disease, war, conflict, which is what Richard said. Limited resources, culture, social factors. It seems that you have all of that. But I mean, presumably you have a reason that you're asking the question. But that's the best I think that I could give you on that.
Yeah, I was gonna see Forrest, because I think Forrest was the one that was a evolutionary. But that's
exactly.
Really but
well, I was gonna suggest Forrest. I was like, because I feel like this is gonna get into the biological type of evolution discussion quick, but.
I don't agree with that. 200, I mean, that would mean 347,000 years. Or, I don't know, 340,000 years. We'd have to be in Africa, I think is where they say, in Ethiopia, where we didn't grow because there were so many plagues and so much famine.
I think one thing you're missing.
Very often in Africa.
RJ, I think one thing you're missing here.
There would have to be just millions of those incidents. So
RJ, let me just interject with this point real quick, and then I'll let you kind of respond to it. I think one of the things you're missing is until very, very recently we were hunter-gatherers, and for the largest proportion of that time, we were limited by resource. We were following herds around, and that's how we survived. We weren't in settlements. We weren't growing at all, and we were barely surviving, along with other species, by the way, that were around. And it took a long time for us to get down, settle down, and form these cities. And it wasn't until then that population started growing. So to say we've been around for all this time, but we've only just started growing, kind of ignores the fact that for the majority of that period, we were just hunter-gatherers. We were nomadic. We weren't settling down. We didn't have farming methods or anything like that. And that's really when we did first start to kind of explode in population.
Is it really that difficult to develop farming and to hunt animals? Is that really, really difficult task for a human being to develop?
Have you ever?
I feel like this whole thing is based on some incredulity here, and it appeals to ignorance, and it's not sounding like. Yeah, go ahead, Richard. Like,
I just really
I'm
want
very
to ask
skeptical
RJ
that you're not being totally incredulous, because you haven't even mentioned the rate of population growth or anything like that. None of that mattered. So
I just kind of want to ask RJ if he's ever kind of been out in the wilderness. RJ, have you ever been out in the wilderness? Because I've been out in the wilderness. and it's
I have.
really not comfortable. It's really not comfortable at all, and this is with modern technology and modern equipment, and
Right.
it's I would say that it would be very, very hard from people in the past who were nomadic to actually sit down and get that infrastructure in place where they can actually start to develop farming. It's not just a case that you can just sit down and decide to do it one day. It takes a lot of things to actually.
There's deers that survive out in the wild, and they're not nearly as smart as humans, right? And they survive really easily. So saying the humans who are more intelligent than deer have a much really.
RJ, are you a serious caller?
Wild. What?
Are you a serious caller?
Yeah, I'm absolutely serious. So explain to me how there's deers out there that they don't have the capability we have. There's lions, there's tigers. We're smarter than all of them. They can survive very easily out in the wild.
Look, I'm not a biologist.
That we can't survive. That we have all kinds of, it's so difficult to develop farming.
I don't think deers and lions survive very, very easily. I think that's a falsity. I think you only have to watch a very basic wildlife documentary to see that things don't survive easily. It's a struggle. Life is a struggle.
We would also have more resources because humans are more sparsely spread out during that time period. And we would also have fewer plagues because we're more spread out.
Yeah, but what you're saying this, but like this sounds just like it sounds good in my head, or it sounds like it makes sense. But I even said there's evidence that this would be the case. And then so here's one thing: is you have a concern on whether or not you could reach 8 billion in the lifespan that you have, and you have concerns about that. If you're asking questions in that sense to understand, I understand that, but it's sounding like incredulity because just wait. It's sounding like incredulity because you're just like, well, how do you explain this? Or how do you do this? If you think it's impossible, then I mean, that's going to be on you, right? That's not because one, I'm not a biologist. You will have to call and talk to Forrest. This is way out of my wheelhouse, but it's hard for me to not think that this is incredulity or that you have, because I think that if you're honest with yourself, you think it's impossible, right? It's not merely that you're just questioning it. I have a feeling that you think that this couldn't occur, right? Am I right about that?
I would say mathematically speaking,
it couldn't occur, right?
It sense for us to only have 8 billion people after 300.
Then you would show mathematically that that's the case. Don't ask us questions and then invoke incredulity and ignorance. Right. If it's mathematically impossible, then do the derivation, right? Like, I'm just not going to put up with like 20 questions all day if you think it's some type of mathematical issue and you're not even going to provide the fucking derivation. I can't take you seriously. I just can't. And I don't know shit about this.
It's not. I'm not. I mean, you can do this on a math. You can go from. I don't know.
It's your job. You're the one who is skeptical about it.
Times it by 2.
It's your job to do that. If you think it's statistically impossible or
I
improbable,
did do it.
then show the math. Okay, then I guess email me the math. I'd be interested. I'll forward the Forrest for you personally.
How can I do that through the phone? Show you the math.
Email. I'll give you an email right now.
Okay, I'll send you an email. But I mean,
be great. I love that.
Like it's really complicated. What I'm saying.
Hold on. We're not going to move from this. We're not going to move from this. TV. You have a paper down. You have paper. Do you have pen? Something.
I got a notepad on my phone, but
or just go back and listen to me say the words on the recording. TV@atheist-community.org. Email there. I'll give it straight to Forrest. We'll give it straight to Forrest.
Okay, hold on just a moment here. Hold on. Sorry.
I want to make sure we do take every nook and cranny for you because I'm not convinced in your mathematical derivation. And like I said, I don't know much about this, but I am convinced it won't be forthcoming.
Okay, well, I can tell you this. If you're going back 400,000 years, or some say 350,000 years, I mean, you would have to have a lot of dead people. You'd have to have lots of huge cataclysmic events, destroy half the population. Even in modern times, that hasn't happened. Even the Black Plague, like you said, the population sprung right back up from that. I mean, even the COVID-19 didn't kill the majority of our population.
RJ, I feel like can I just ask you if the way you've worked out your math is to take a X population at the beginning and literally just double it every so many years without taking other factors into consideration?
Right. Well, see, I've taken other factors. It comes out to about doubling the population every 150 years, if I did it right, that to get to 8 billion. If you go back about 4,000 years.
Yeah, but did you
which
look
would
at?
Make sense if you look at the.
Yeah, but did you look at like the population rates? Like, so I don't think and I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure from what I remember, we didn't even hit like 1 billion until 1800, right? And so it doesn't sound like you're even taking in like any type of population rate here or looking at the data. It seems like you're just kind of stringing these things into your head that it doesn't make sense, but you don't really care about the actual individual factors or things that are at play. It just doesn't sound like an honest critique, and I don't know much about this, so maybe I'm wrong, but this just doesn't sound like an honest critique. It sounds like a motivated critique.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to get to. Let's just RJ, just for 1 second. Let's just assume that you're correct, and what we've said is crap, and everything you've just said is right. There's something wrong. We should have more people than we have now. What is the kind of end of this argument? Where's it leading?
I would say this gives, and now it's not 100% proof, but this gives a lot of leeway to the biblical story that we've only been here for about 4,000 to 6,000 years that humans have been around. That
Why?
This is not a
Why
really
does it
old
do that?
Earth. And see, you're talking about me assuming constants with the population growth. When they do the radiometric dating, they're also assuming constants between the carbon-14 and carbon-12. So you guys are doing the exact you're making assumptions.
I'll let J-Mike take that one because
I've
had about 2 days worth of carbon-14 conversations.
Yeah, I don't know. That's another forest thing to get into. But I mean, the fact that so many industries are dependent on this success rate and like billions of dollars within the industries that depend on this, I think we have some really good reason to back that up. Same with the other case. But look, I kind of want to just zoom out. You want to show this inconsistency from this rate and say that lends credit for that. Well, like even if we granted that it did, it wouldn't. I mean, there's other views that would take to an early Earth. I mean, I get what you're trying to do, but you're not tackling like the geological strata, right, or anything like that. You're just focused on this rate. I mean, it seems that you have different independent pieces of evidence that you could string together, make predictive success, right? Not just like, yeah, I don't understand how this works, and I'm going to call the Atheist Experience and see what they think about it. It seems like if you really thought that this was true, or you could show it was true, you would string these kinds of pieces like, hey, this population rate doesn't work out. I can make predictive success or predictive expectation based on this hypothesis, stringing all this data together. And if you get novel predictions out of that view, I'm not saying testable necessarily, I'm just saying you get some novel predictions or predictive expectation. I mean, that'd be great, but just calling and saying that like this doesn't make sense to me isn't really compelling to me, right? The thing I would want to see is some type of predictive expectation that comes true. And I don't even think you're anywhere close to that. And that's what you're competing against, right? You're competing against views that do that. So it's like really unfair for you to go, I see that you went through this rigorous process. I'm just going to like fucking sidestep that shit. Fuck that. I'm not dealing with that because that might show my shit's wrong. That's just how it comes off to me, I guess. I don't know. I'm not trying to say you do that dishonestly, but every time someone says this, they're not going through this rigorous process. They're like, oh, I don't get it. Okay. That's not an argument, nor is that predictive expectation. That's incredulity or ignorance. So I don't know. I'm kind of...
I guess we can agree to disagree, but I think...
Sure. I definitely agree to disagree.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest criticism of evolution and atheism is that something just doesn't seem to be adding up here. And
what would it do? What would it do
there's
to
just too
your
many
belief, RJ? RJ, what would it
anomalies.
do to your belief if it was confirmed that kind of that we did have this these populations dying out and we didn't start exploding until a certain time? What would you do if that evidence was presented to you? First of all, would you accept it if it was presented to you? Let's say you talked to Forrest and he gave you the sources that demonstrated this was the case. Would you accept it if it was demonstrated to you? And secondly, if you did accept it, what would it do to your kind of the worldview you have that Christianity is true and God exists?
Well, I've looked at a lot of the evidence online, and I don't really see what you're saying. But if he was somehow able to prove, I mean, I don't know how you would do that. You have to take like a camera back in time or something. But that we evolved from apes, yeah, I would probably question my religion. But when facts are there and the facts are more in favor of my belief, I have to tip my belief system over into Christianity. You know,
I mean, this is getting into a whole different area, and I'm not equipped to talk about biology, but I think when you're saying the evidence is there and it doesn't really convince you, when the amount of evidence that we do have for evolution,
endogenous retroviruses alone should
it suggests everybody. It suggests to me that you've either not actually looked into it as thoroughly as you claim to have done, or you've dismissed it out of hand.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'll keep researching it, but I'm not convinced. I mean, I think there's something off here that I think a lot of atheists are missing and a lot of evolutionists are missing. So something does not add up in that.
Look up ERVs.
Years that they say we've been around.
Look up ERVs, endogenous retroviruses. Look up why that's really good evidence that humans and chimpanzees share common ancestry. Because if you get into, I think it's called the HERV W group, we share like 205 out of like 211 or 209. The probability exceeds the number of atoms that there are in the universe for them to have that exact same location. And so it'd be really interesting. I'm not a big biologist or anything like that, but I would suggest that's the thing. I mean, and I'm not saying, oh, just believe me. Go look at that. If you're not convinced by that, or you talk to some biologists, if that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. I really don't.
I get what you're saying about our DNA being very close together. However, I've looked at that and say I have a Galaxy.
That's not necessarily what I'm saying.
Note 9.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking
about. I have a Galaxy tablet. They're not the same, but they'll have some.
No. Stop. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about retroviruses, right? This isn't just the DNA. It's in the segment of our DNA. It's like it kind of marks off this kind of scar that's passed through. It's like a scar for our ancestry. It's a really good data record for us to know. This isn't just about the similarities of our DNA. Look into endogenous retroviruses. We're going to move on, but I'm not interested in the really bad analogy that. Oh my God! And you're still talking, so we're gonna go ahead and drop you, RJ.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and let you guys go. Okay.
Oh, I already let you go. See you, bud.